Breakneck through the Bible, 2017-2018, class number 13. Okay, so it's a cold, wintry day here in Dallas, Texas. So everyone who is at home, please stay warm, drink your hot cocoa. I sent my wife out to buy marshmallows. Kosher marshmallows are hard to find, so I figured it'd be a run on kosher marshmallows and get your hot cocoa and popcorn. So if we get snowed in tomorrow and a half an inch of snow, so so I just want to make sure that you're all nice and warm and don't run out of those marshmallows. And so I actually just want to anyone who braved the weather and came out to class, you get double credit for coming out. And actually, it's funny, like you hear the wind howling in the background. So remind you, there's a story in the Gemara that Hillel, right, was a wood chopper. And what happened was, every day he used to chop enough wood so that he could get his entrance fee into the study hall. I guess he used to have to pay to get in, and just enough food for that day. And one day he chopped wood, but he didn't make enough money to get into the study hall. And so he gave his family the food, what they needed for that day, and he went to the study hall, but he couldn't get in. The guy turned him away. So he went up onto the rooftop, and he put his ear down against the skylight so they should be able to hear the Torah that they were learning.
That's commitment.
And when that was, it began to snow. And what happened was, he was so engrossed in the learning, he didn't realize it was snow. And then the snow piled up on him. And he basically was like frozen, like listening to the rooftop. So inside, the rabbi says, it's kind of dark. Why isn't the light coming in from the skylight? You look up and they see a picture of a man, right, lying on the skylight. So he goes and they send the students up there, and they kind of bring Hillel, right, into the study hall. And they said because he's so committed to learning that from then on he would get into the study hall without having to pay. And so that's what I kind of hear, the wind howling, and like that's kind of what I think of, like that's the we're here putting our ear to the wall to listen to Torah. So only good things come from people that are so dedicated to learning Torah. So yasher koach to you all for kudos to you all for coming up. You get double credit.
Thank you for teaching us.
Okay, yeah, no, it's good. Okay, and now if the weather does get inclement, we will end a little bit early if I see it starting to not that I kind of would look outside while I'm teaching class, but if I happen to see it's getting, we'll let you out a few minutes early just to make sure that you get home safe and sound. Now you wonder about the weather, why it's going back and forth. We're going to get snow, or we aren't going to get snow. So I came in today, and my kids come running to me and say, "We're going to have school tomorrow." I said, "What do you mean have school tomorrow?" I said, "It's snow." I say, "Of course we're going to have snow. Of course we're going to have school." She says, "I've been praying all day for there to be snow, so we have no school tomorrow." So I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, you've been praying all day that there should be snow, so no school tomorrow." I said, "And all the parents are praying that there's no snow." I said, "You better go and start praying right now." I said, because all the parents are really praying that there's no snow and that there is school tomorrow. So, I said, I forgot, there's a famous movie where you have the guy becomes God for a day, and so
Jim Carrey.
It could be, but I don't know movie stars. I really don't know anything about. Always in Trivial Pursuit, entertainment was my worst category, because and so I have enough drama in my own lives. Why do I need to watch their drama? and he finally becomes God. So he says, "Okay, this is crazy. Why doesn't God answer my prayer whenever I pray to win the lottery?" So he does a search on his email box, winning the lottery, and he says, and there's like 10 million requests. People want to win the lottery. So he goes, select all, yes, and he goes and sends it out. 10 million people win the lottery, and everyone gets 60 cents. So I said, imagine you're God. I said, and all the children, right, the pure, holy Jewish Jewish children are praying that there be snow tomorrow, and God is saying, "Wow, that's fantastic." And then all the parents come, no, please, make sure it's school tomorrow. So it kind of just, I find it's always what I think about when we have this discussion about whether there should be school or not be school. Okay, so we ended off last week in middle of chapter 2, chapter 2, verse number 9. When we talked about that God makes the Garden of Eden, and he goes ahead in the Garden of Eden, he goes ahead and makes it full of trees. We said how many different trees were in the Garden of Eden?
Millions.
Oh, we said millions, but probably tens of thousands. I mean, just lots of trees, all different types of trees in the world, right? Everything actually was sourced in the Garden of Eden. Okay, and so everything is in the garden from the Garden of Eden. And then there are 2 special trees, right? What are the special trees?
Knowledge.
Tree of knowledge and tree of life. Right? And we said, what is the tree of life? Torah. Right? And what is the tree of knowledge? Science, math, right? It's knowledge and things. And which tree could they eat from? What trees could they eat from in the garden?
All but the good and bad.
All of them except for the tree of knowledge of good and bad. Right? They could eat from all the different trees. Right? The only tree they couldn't eat from is the tree of good and bad. And we said, and why could they not eat from the tree of good and bad? If they couldn't eat from it, why did God create a tree of good and bad if you couldn't eat from it?
To allow free choice.
To allow free will.
And they had to eat the Torah first.
And they had to eat the Torah first. And we said eventually they were going to be able to eat from the tree of knowledge.
Next day.
The next day, right? Well, because what was the next day?
Shabbos.
Next day was Shabbos, right? And when Shabbat would come, right? The next day was Shabbat, and Shabbat coming is right, will be, right, that's the world to come, right? That's symbolic of Mashiach, right, times of the Messiah, and the world to come, and therefore then they would allowed to go and they would be allowed to eat from it, right? And that's why they had it there. Just God said you can't eat it, because if you first eat from the tree of knowledge, right, what's going to happen? You're going to take that knowledge, and when you learn Torah, you're going to try to make Torah fit into the knowledge. Okay, right? You're going to try to make Torah fit into the, right? Fit into the
Science.
But fit into the science, right? And fit into the science rather than make the science fit into the Torah. And that's always a danger, right? It's right. We don't have to explain Torah. We have to understand Torah, right? Because that's right. The Torah is God talking to us and telling us, right, how the world is running and what our job in the world is, etc., etc.
Could it be possible that Adam didn't know everything about Torah?
Is part that Adam did not know everything about Torah?
Certain things that only God knows and nobody else.
Sure, yeah. It has to be that way because the Torah is the most finite form that God can take, and almost you can imagine that the Torah like is God's mind. Okay, right? That what happens is that you go ahead and you have, right, this is the knowledge of God, right? And so therefore to truly understand God, right, you never get there when we truly understand God, right? We get close where we understand about God, right? We can understand as much as we can understand about God, right? But for us to understand God is impossible. Why is that impossible?
Because our mind has limits and God doesn't.
Because we're finite. Right, we're finite, right? And God is infinite. And could the finite hold something that is infinite?
No.
No, right? And so therefore, that's why we can't understand God. It's not that God is limited; it's because we are limited. But if we understand that we're limited, right? We understand we can't understand everything, right? And certainly when we're in our finite being, right, in this finite body, we can't understand everything. And that's really where Judaism is actually interesting. Judaism. Right, we say, right, where belief in Judaism comes in, right, where does belief in Judaism come in? Right, it's not that we believe in God, we don't believe in God, right? We as Jews know there's a God. Okay? Where does belief in God come in? Belief in God comes in when there's something that seems to contradict the knowledge. Okay? When something there seems to contradict the knowledge. Right, so for example, we know God is good, and whatever He does is for our benefit, and then yet sometimes we come across something that doesn't seem for our benefit, right, and what happens then when we come across something that doesn't seem to be for our benefit? We can question him, right? But really, what is our job at that point in time? To understand that God, right, again, rule number one, God does everything for our benefit. How, why, I might not understand. It might take me many years to understand, right? Or I might never even understand, right? But I promise you, when we get upstairs to heaven and we ask God why all those things happen, guess what? We'll get an answer on every single one of those things. Right? Every single one of those things will go ahead and will be answered to us. So much so, by the way, that we'll be embarrassed that we asked the question. Right? Because we'll say, we're going to come into, we have that chip on our shoulder. We have that one complaint that is burning, right? That's burning inside of us, and kind of in just like, I've got to ask the question. And at the end of the day, when we see the answer is going to be something that is so incredible and so for our benefit. We're going to truly be humbled, right? And because what we thought was something bad was really something that was good, and really was something that was totally for our benefit and really saved us.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Can you define Adam first? My second question is that if you compare Adam with Moshe, who's better?
Who's better? Okay.
Who's the patriarch?
Okay. So it happens to be fascinating. Rule number one in comparing two people is you can never compare two people. Why could you never compare two people?
No two people are alike.
No, they're not the same. There's no two people alike.
No two people. Okay. So no two people alike. So who cares?
Well, because it means each person has their own relationship with God.
Okay. So why can't we compare? Which relationship is greater?
Well, because there may be details that would seem insignificant to us as a human, but God sees them as imperative to His relationship with that particular person.
Okay, let me clarify what you mean. Every single person is unique. Every single person has exactly their own cocktail of desires, wants, needs, smarts that God has given them. Every single person is their own unique individual. And every person's job is to become the best that they can become. And has nothing to do with somebody else. For example, people say, well, Rabbi, you're going to be in such a place in heaven, we won't even be able to see you. I said, how do you know? I said, I grew up religious. So I'm starting here on the spectrum, right? I'm over here. So let's say I go from here and I go to here. I move 2 steps. I said, and somebody grew up with nothing, and then they take 50 steps. And they're way behind me. Because I was born and I was raised, I had much more ahead of them. Who has done more for their relationship with God? The other person, the one who's taken 50 steps. Right? And so therefore, the one who's taken 50 steps, they're the one, right, who is really the hero. And even more so than the person who started off way over here and I just went a couple steps. So you can never compare two people. Comparing two people is a lesson in futility. What can we say? Have I done my best?
The
Right?
answer is no. No one ever does their best.
Mark, we're just starting with you. You got a great trainer. Her name is Joy. Okay? Right? And we're going to teach you about doing your best. Okay? Right? Okay? Right? But that's our job. Our job is to do our best. Right? Our job is to become the best who we can become. Because in fact, you asked a question about comparing Adam and Moses. I do want to point out to you that neither of them are the patriarch of the Jewish people.
But they came from the same. Okay, first of all, is Adam a spiritual person or religious person?
Every person is a spiritual person.
Okay, so what did he eat from the knowledge?
Why or what?
Why? Why?
Why? Okay, you are way into chapter 3. We're still in chapter 2. You're going to have to wait till we get to chapter 3. But there's an answer.
What is better, knowledge or spiritual? I don't know.
Okay, let me define. I am going to define for you spirituality. Okay, just for the heck of it. Okay, now this is the most important definition you're ever going to get. You ever hear someone come and says, Rabbi, I'm not religious. I'm just a spiritual person. Anyone ever say that to you?
Yeah.
You ever heard such a thing?
It's garbage.
Okay, right? Okay, now let me explain to you something. Listen to me carefully. I feel spiritual. I find fascinating when somebody says that to me. I said, how does a spiritual person feel? I said, not only how does a spiritual person feel, I would tell you the times when you felt the most lousy was probably the times that you were the most spiritual. Right? Yom Kippur, how does it feel in Yom Kippur? Feels good to be hungry? No. You're probably the most spiritual. Right? Feeling spiritual, I'm going to explain to you. Do you know what spirituality? Let me define for you spirituality. Spirituality means your relationship with God. Okay? That's what spirituality means. Somebody, right? Spiritual, somebody who has a spiritual relationship with God. Now, there's a bigger problem. Because we might think we have a relationship with God. But the question is, do we really? Or are we just fooling ourselves? And how do we know if it's real? Or how do we know if we're just fooling ourselves about our relationship with God?
When we get tested, and how we respond to that test.
Maybe yeah, maybe no. Maybe what you think you're being tested isn't really being tested. Or maybe what you think is passing isn't passing. Right? So how do you really know? So I'm going to help you and explain to you how you should know. The way you create a relationship with God, there are 613 ways to create a relationship with God. Okay? Those 613 ways are called the Torah. The Torah is how you create a relationship with God. Right? That is right. That's the short and the long of it all. Right? Your relationship with God is defined, right? Defined by the commandments, and how many commandments you do, and actually how many commandments you do isn't really, again, isn't necessarily the sort of the gross, right? Is not the gross, right, barometer, right, of whether you're spiritual or not, because depending on where you started from is really more important than what you're doing.
Can I cut you for 1 second? I'm sorry.
Yes.
The 613 mitzvot.
Yes.
From the beginning of Adam and Hava until now, it has decayed. It has gone lower and lower and lower.
No.
And that kind of technology, people don't even keep 10 of them anymore.
Commandments?
I disagree.
There are 281 commandments that you can do today.
Okay, but you don't.
281.
Most people don't do them. I haven't
We're not talking about most people. Most people don't come to class.
Most people aren't Jewish.
Most people aren't Jewish. Right? And the non-Jews don't have 613 commandments. Right? We have 613 commandments. Right? Right? And again, it's only possible to do 281. Out of the 281, you have to be a woman, a man, married and divorced, all at the same time. So most of us do not have 281 commandments. Kohen, Levi, and Israelite, also all at the same time. So you figure at the end of the day, there are probably around 250 commandments that most of us can do. 250. And I'll tell you the good news. Most of the 250 commandments, you're doing already. Do you treat your slave well?
But I have to work on myself to get to that point.
Hmm?
I have to work on myself to get to that point.
Yeah.
It's not that simple.
Of course you do. right? And how you work
By
on
the
yourself.
time I do this, I might die.
My friend, you are here in this world to do them. That is your mission in this world. That's okay. If you die, that means that your job is over. Your mission is over, right? Your mission is to go and to do as much as you can do. Or can't do. That's your job, right? To do as much as you can do in the army of God, right? Okay, right? Okay, right? So that's our job, and that's what it means to be spiritual, and that's how we know whether we're spiritual or not, right? Is by how many of the commandments we are doing. That defines our spirituality. That defines our relationship with God, right? When things are tough, and we do it anyway. Now we're really growing. Spiritual growth is when you're grinding it out and you're working yourself and you're polishing yourself. That's what spiritual growth and spiritual greatness comes from. Right? That's where it comes from. Right? And our job is to become spiritual giants. Right? That's what we're supposed to be trying to achieve. Right? To achieve the level of spiritual greatness. The world has this concept of this Renaissance man, like that's the optimum to be the Renaissance man, right? You know what the optimum in Judaism is to be? To be the godly man, right? To be the godly person. That to us is impressive. You can know 20 languages and be a jerk. You can know one language and be a saint. And our job is to become godly. And our job is to become godlike. That's our job. That's the only barometer that matters. Everything else is just fake. And just snake oil. And it will probably hurt you more than it will help you. And that's our job. To become great. Yeah.
So Rambam has compiled a list of the 613 mitzvahs.
Yes.
Have you compiled a list of the 250 that we can actually
Absolutely. I didn't do it. There's a great book called Sefer HaMitzvos HaKatzer, I think written by the Chavetz Chaim, actually.
Sefer
HaMitzvos HaKatzer. The concise HaKatzer. Katzer, which means concise. Okay? The concise book of mitzvahs.
We
Right?
have that here in the library.
That's what I'm looking over here. We should have a copy.
Okay.
We should have a copy
I'll look for it.
to go through. Yeah, it's actually good. I actually once wanted to give a class just going through the commandments that we could do nowadays. And just like
I don't think I can get all of them, but I could try.
you could try. Our job is to try, right? Our job is to go ahead and to get to a place of really where we achieve, right? Right is to achieve as much as we can. That's our job, right? To do our best. That's spirituality. So God puts man in the garden, and he puts two trees in front of him, millions of trees, and he points out there are two trees. The tree of life, make sure you eat it up. Tree of knowledge, make sure before you eat the tree of knowledge, make sure you have the wisdom to know what that knowledge is for, and how to use that knowledge. Right? Because if you don't, you can misuse that knowledge, and you can destroy the world. Right, and that's really right, and that becomes a challenge, right? To make sure we always eat from the right. Today, are we eating from the tree of life before we eat from the tree of knowledge? No. Or are we taking the tree of knowledge and then trying to make the tree of life to understand what the tree of what the tree of life is?
I think we use the knowledge to get to life.
That's a mistake.
It could be, but that's right. But
The fact that we're here means we're trying to eat from the tree of life.
But right, and understand that the tree of life is supposed to modify our knowledge, not modify the tree of life. Right, and that's our job. Right, make sure we know Torah, make sure we know what God wants, and that way then we could look at the rest of the world, and we could understand it through the prism of Torah. Right, rather than trying to take Torah and make it fit what we think the world should be like. Right?
But the science is not that. Science helps people, doctors learn from science, they treat people, good things come out of it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely not. But make sure that you're going ahead and that you are putting in right? The tree of, right, that the knowledge that we're using, that we're creating it with the right purpose and right ends. And we might think we might be doing something good with it, and at the end of the day, we could be something bad for it.
I read a book by a neurosurgeon, and he always prayed before he did surgery because he realized he wasn't just operating on an organ. He was operating on someone's conscious, their memories, their feelings, he just took that so, I guess it reminds me of this, or it's a kind of the concept of life and knowledge. He had the knowledge to go in and take a brain tumor out as much as he could, but he would stop and reflect on what he was doing.
Right. Okay, and that connection is very interesting. Right. Then we're living in the time of actually science when we're trying to really even understand that connection even more, right? And kind of trying to understand it, and it's right. But at the end of the day, we have to have the knowledge of Torah, the wisdom of Torah before we get the knowledge of the world. Right? You know, it is very interesting. You all know how the what's it called? The prizes they give out in science and medicine and Nobel Peace. You know who founded the Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah, guy with the dynamite.
Right, what's his name? Noble. And you know when he decided to make these prizes?
When he saw the damage that the dynamite does.
No. What happened was he created dynamite. Right, and became very wealthy. And what happened was it was reported that he had died. And so the newspaper printed, "The merchant of death has died."
They woke him up.
They woke him up. And he said, "Oh my gosh." He says, "I'm going to be known as the merchant of death." So instead he said, "I'll make sure my name is always associated with something good." So he created the Nobel Peace Prize. He created all the Nobel Prizes. Right? Because that way then he should be known, and he was successful. Right? Nobody knows who created dynamite. You know now because I told you. But right, I didn't know that until I heard this story. Right? Right? But that's fascinating, right? How are we going to be known? Right? And we choose that by our actions. Eat from the tree of life. Then you can eat from the tree of knowledge. Right? Get Torah. And then you can understand the world. Then everything will make sense. Yes?
One question and that's it.
Go ahead.
In the Torah, does it say, let's for example, it's just an example.
Mm-hmm.
If a man gets a headache, he needs to have an advil. Is there anywhere in the Torah that says if a man gets a headache, he needs to study this to get rid of the headache?
Sure, absolutely. In fact, we had a book called Sefer HaRefuah, the Book of Healing.
Yeah.
The Book of Healing was this great book. Okay? Don't write it down. Because what happened was, it had the cure for every disease. And when people became sick, they just opened up the book, and they found the cure, and then they just cured themselves. Chizkiyahu HaMelech, great Chizkiyahu, said this is not good for the spiritual well-being of the Jewish people. And he banned the book.
So it's not in the library here.
Correct.
Oh.
That book was hidden, was put away.
Was it the right thing to do?
It did, and the Talmud says the sages praised him for doing it.
Hmm.
Why? Because what happened was, people, when they got sick, they would read the book, get cured. What's the problem? Why does somebody get sick?
That's a good question.
So they'll appeal to God for rescue.
They appeal to God for rescue, to heal them. And it's really meant as a way for us to look at our deeds. Sickness is not random. There is no sickness that is just random. Okay? Sickness doesn't just... It's not random. It's from... No, it's not punishment. Maybe, maybe not. Right? Maybe it's meant to teach us something. Maybe it's meant for us to go ahead and to look at what we do, right? To look at our deeds and to look at our actions, and to correct our deeds and our actions. Right? Maybe that's what it's meant for. Right? That's exactly what it's meant for, actually. So people, when they got sick, instead of doing the hard work of spiritual growth, what did they do?
They just read the
They just read. They cheated. They opened the book. They found okay, this I take. 3 pieces vinegar, 2 pieces lemon. 1 hot tea and a shot of bourbon, and I put it in and I get cured.
Who created this book? Who is it
Right?
written by whom? This book.
As I said, that's a good question. I'm not sure who wrote it, but it's a book that we had. We had the book. We had the knowledge. Chizkiyahu says we're abusing the system. Right? We're not using. We're taking the system, and instead of using it for what we should be, we're just not using it.
Could it be used together with the prayer? Then it would be.
Absolutely, no, it's just used after the prayer,
But if
and after we sit and after we work on it. But the problem is, the desire to cheat is so great, right? So we won't put in the work, right? And so he says, okay, it's not good. Let's take it away. Let's go to work.
Otherwise, it would have been used if it would be used after the prayer.
Yeah, or move right. Would it be used? Yeah.
So they said they shouldn't use the book for healing because it damages the spirituality, right?
Because it damages what?
The spirituality.
Right.
So when they went to war, what did they do? They just prayed first and then went to war. Or they
And the
switched
Jewish
war?
people?
Yeah.
It depends what era of the Jewish people we were in. You see, some eras of Judaism, we actually would pray. And the enemy would just run away. Other times, we would actually just stop to think to pray, and the enemy would run away. And then, you had times when we actually prayed and then went to battle.
But that doesn't happen anymore.
What doesn't happen anymore?
The IDF, they go to wars, they get killed.
Correct.
Yeah, but they pray.
And they pray.
But they pray.
And then forget about that they pray, because some of them pray more, some of them pray less. But we have a whole army of people that pray for them. And all the yeshiva students in the army, right? Well, the yeshiva students not in the army, but in yeshivos, are praying for them.
Or actually, when Jason was over there in 2009, he was assigned.
Yeah, actually, quite a fascinating. Actually, you should know. It's very interesting in the Chumash. Right, we'll see in Parshas Matos, when the Jewish people went to battle against Midian. Right, when the whole story with Balak, with Bilam, and they went to take revenge. So God says, take 1,000 men from each tribe to go to war. But it says take 2,000. It says take 1,000 men, 1,000 men. And then when they went to battle, it says 12,000 men went to battle. So it says, what do you mean? Is it 1,000? Is it 2,000 per tribe, or is it 1,000 per tribe? And so the Talmud says no. It's 2,000 per tribe. 1,000 would go to battle, and 1,000 would pray. Each one assigned to a soldier that went out to fight. Right? And what happens? And so in one of the last Gaza wars, so actually, I think the Boston Rabbi and some other great rabbis in Israel set up a place where soldiers could call in and give their Hebrew name, and people would call up and would pray for those soldiers that were going to battle. Yeah.
Are you saying that a Jew with a chronic health problem, let's say psychological, who goes to therapy and takes medication, is not praying hard enough?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying is that they might have to do that, but that's they have to pray with it. Means you can't have that without the prayer, right? You can't have that without the spiritual growth, right? Means you could do all those things, right? to take the medicines. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not telling you, don't stop taking medicines, right? Don't stop going to doctors. I know that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that understand that what makes those medicines effective, right, is a spiritual growth that comes from it. Right? And it's learning how to pray. Right? And it was going ahead and of us right learning that's our job.
I mean, in a simple way, they say it's certainly healthier to feel good than to feel bad.
Right. No, for sure. God wants us to feel good. Right? You know what I'm saying? Right? God wants us to feel good. Right? Right? But they're put there, these things that happen are meant for us. Remember, the whole world, do you know why we're here? What is our purpose of being in this world? To create a relationship with God. Everything else is a distraction. It could be good distractions, but it's meant as a way for us in our journey to go ahead and to create that relationship with God.
Does not having a good relationship with God bring bad luck?
Well, we don't do such thing as luck, but yes.
I mean,
well, again,
what word would you use?
Would that be detrimental to us?
Yes.
And the answer is absolutely. Now sometimes people are so wicked. God just says, "Go ahead and do your thing. I'll leave you alone. I won't bother you. You want to? I'll let you go make millions. You just go ahead. You know, you just do your thing. You know, it's like the rat that falls into the into the big garbage dumps and is very happy because he has all this food.
And then what happens?
The dumpster gets taken to the dump where they burn it. Right? Meaning God, it says God only nudges the people who He loves. Right? If something bad happens, that means God loves you. That's a good thing. That means God cares about you. Right? It's God is saying, I care about you. Right? That's our job. Right? That's a good thing. Right? So then at that point in time, so now let's make sure we get the message. Right? It doesn't mean it will go away magically. Right? But at least we'll understand it. Right? And we'll get the context. Right? And we'll understand what we're supposed to learn. Right? And we'll grow from it. And we'll come closer to God. And that's the purpose of this world.
And in a simplistic way, getting closer to God takes our mind off of that negativity.
Well, that's for sure. I'll turn it the other way around. When we stray from our relationship with God, God is all goodness and all wonderful. When we stray from that relationship, all the other stuff come in. Right? And really, right, by God, it's all incredible. And it's having that relationship.
So the story of Joseph and his brothers could be an illustration for these things as a task. When Joseph was
sold, right? Joseph was sold down to Egypt. It was terrible. Oh my gosh, he's being separated from his brother, being sent down to a land.
And
right? And what happens? He saves the Jewish people.
So it was a task.
It was a task that needed to be done.
First the suffering and then the ascending.
Right.
And
that was it. Right. And then we got to the place of where we got that relationship. Incredible.
So when people asking questions, I'm doing all the right things, I'm following all the commandments, and I'm still suffering, and I have all these problems and troubles in my life, and these people say that, despite all the right things they do. Mm-hmm. So it means that was meant for them as an
extra way to come closer to God.
It's in a way it was an extra love from God, right?
Correct.
Because they put an extra task.
Right, correct.
Is this analogous to the Holocaust?
It could be. Again, the Holocaust is very complex because it's such a huge thing going on, and exactly what it was, what it wasn't, right? And multiple reasons, and you have to be a prophet to truly understand, right, why bad things happen to good people, yada yada right? All those things coming in, right? There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And I'm not a prophet. I can't tell you why the Holocaust happened. And I don't know.
Many Holocausts.
Well, many, right. But there are many, and what I would say is even major and minor, meaning a person's own Holocaust. right? His own world of just, and right. But so all those things, the one thing in common is don't think it's because God doesn't love you, right? And understand that there's a message, and our goal is to understand the message, and to learn from it and to grow from it. And if we do that, we made it all worthwhile.
I'm not asking a question. I'm just gonna answer.
Right.
It's important. It's very important.
No, normal, I'll take care of it. Okay, right? To understand, right? Like that's
Slap him down.
like that's our job.
I just want to answer this gentleman's question because I've been through this myself.
Mm-hmm.
There is no such a thing as depression. It doesn't exist. It's a man-made sickness. And believe me, I was on it. I've been through depression. I've been through all the pills and everything else. Until you don't until you don't become religious, you don't realize what you were on. All the pills that they give you is all man-made. It's all made people to become worse. And believe me, my father suffers from the same thing, and the difference between him and me, he doesn't believe in God and I do. That's all it is.
Okay. Good. So that's why you have the tree of knowledge. Thank you.
Following a doctor's
Tree of knowledge, tree of life. Our job is to make sure we eat from the tree of life first.
I agree with you.
Okay. Good. Okay. Verse number 10. Okay. Verse number 10. Chapter 2, verse number 10. Okay. Okay, Taylor, you want to read? Page 13. Page 13.
River.
13, right? Chapter 2, verse number 10.
A river issues forth from Eden to water the garden, and from there it is divided and becomes 4 headwaters. The name of the first is Pishon, the one that encircles the whole land of Havilah, where the gold is. The gold of the land is good. The Bedolach is there, and the Shohan stone. The name of the second river is Gihon, the one that encircles the whole land of Cush. The name of the third river is Hadashah, the one that flows toward the east of Assyria, and the fourth river is the Euphrates.
Okay, right? So we have these 4 different rivers that where do all the headwaters come from? Eden. Now people say, well, Rabbi, do really all these 4 rivers, right? We're talking about the Euphrates. Right, we have over here, we have the Euphrates, we have the Nile, right? We have the Pishon, and right in verse 11 is the Nile River, the Gihon, right? So there's one of these one is the Tigris, one's the Euphrates, right? Then I forgot what the 4th one is. Okay, right? So you have these 4 rivers coming from Eden. Pishon is the Nile. Okay. Right, the Gihon, right, Gihon, and the third is Chidekel, right. So I think Chidekel is the Tigris, and the 4th one is the Euphrates. What's interesting, right, is that it's actually interesting. 3 of the rivers flow from north to south, and only 1 river flows from south to north. Nile, right? I think maybe the only river in the world actually that flows.
That's true.
No, only river in the northern hemisphere.
Northern hemisphere. Is the Nile the northern hemisphere? The southern hemisphere?
Northern.
Yeah?
North of the equator.
It's a long river, the Nile.
Yeah.
But it starts, I think, probably in the southern hemisphere. I don't know. I did with double check, but I think,
The headwaters
but
are
okay,
south of the equator.
right. The headwaters certainly. It's like a 1,000-mile long river. Right. The Blue Nile, the White Nile, and it's just like it's okay. So what does it mean? They all come from the Garden of Eden.
Life starts and flows there, spreads.
So
there.
it's the idea is that the spiritual sustenance of the entire world flows from the Garden of Eden. Okay, right. So that's where it comes from, right? That's a place where all the good, right, comes from the Garden of Eden, and it flows to the rest of the world. Right? That's right. That's the headwaters. Now again, remember, headwaters are very complicated because we have lots of underground streams and whatever, etc., that we still don't know very little about. Right? And so it's but that's where it comes from. Okay. Good. Okay, verse number 15.
Hashem God, yeah.
Okay, Peter, would you like to read?
Sure. Hashem God took the man and placed him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to guard it.
Okay, so tell me, what is that? What does verse 15 say?
Placed him in the Garden of Eden to work it and guard it. To work it means to pray.
Well, what does it mean to work it?
Right.
Working through studying the Torah.
Why can't they be working with a shovel and a pick and a hedge pruner and
Because that's the other tree. The first tree is a tree of
knowledge?
Of knowledge.
But that was in the Garden of Eden too, wasn't it?
Right.
So God put man in the Garden of Eden to work it, didn't he?
It was the only way stuff would grow is if you prayed. And it would get him to pray.
You guys are way too smart for this class. Well, my question is, how do you know it doesn't mean working with the pruners and with the lawnmowers and with the hedge trimmers?
Because that was his curse when he got out of it.
That was
He had to work after he got out.
aha, very good.
But he only had one job there, and that was to pray.
Oh, so very he had two jobs. Okay, so very interesting.
What was the second job?
To guard it. We didn't get to guard it. First, we're doing to work it. It can't be the physical work of the Garden of Eden. Why? Because that physical work that he went ahead and all those things that took place, right? When were those things put into place?
After he ate from the tree of
After he ate from the tree of knowledge, right? In chapter 3, he gets punished that all those things are going to happen. Which meant that in chapter 2, where we are now, right, there is no working it and pruning it and doing all that stuff to it. Right? Where did all that stuff come from?
In violating what God said.
Violating what God said. So now, if the working in the garden was not then your pruning and all your other things, so what does work mean? Why is prayer called working?
Because you're asking God for something. You have a need and you're praying to God for that need.
But how does that make working?
It's an intellectual effort to try to understand God.
Really?
I think it's like someone said. You said it's praise,
Yeah.
ask,
Yeah.
and thank.
Right, good. 3 parts of prayer.
Okay, so
Praise, ask,
pray
thank.
and thank.
Pat.
So that's our job.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we get closer to God, is by doing those 3 things. We praise God, we ask for things from God, and then we thank God for everything.
It's not just going through the motion.
No, okay.
But you have to have the right kavanah when you're praying,
Right.
to be understanding that this is what you're doing, that you're praising, you're asking, and thanking. And if you read the English, it's amazing that almost every prayer is just exactly that.
Well, let me ask you all a question. If you said it's not just going through the motions, well, is that not the intellectual process?
But working on your connection with God is what the work is.
Okay, so what type of work?
Prayer work.
If you go through the
To
motions,
try to
you
understand.
develop the kavanah. Because you're doing it, it's like Shakespeare said, the whole world is a stage and we are all upon it actors. When we act out these parts, we become the parts. We develop the kavanah by doing the act.
So my friends, listen up. Prayer is called work because it's called the work of the heart.
Not of the mind.
Not of the mind. It's called avoda shebelev, the work of the heart. My friends, talking to God is not an intellectual exercise. It's not reading the words. It's not getting, take 3 steps back here and I bow over here and I bow this way and not that way and I kind of got the routine all the way down and I'm a perfect prayer because I know when to shuckle, right? I know when to shake and I know when to bob and weave, right? Right? That's right. That's someone said, Rabbi, teach me to pray. I said, okay. I said, son, know that God loves you. He said, no, Rabbi, teach me how to pray. I said, know that God loves you, and that He wants only the best for you. He said, no, Rabbi, teach me like where to bow and where to take the 3 steps back and when to stand and when to sit up and when to do. I said, you're missing the point. Prayer is not about where do I bow and where do I not bow, how do I pray, how do I talk or not. Prayer is about talking to God and creating a relationship. It's about taking your heart and connecting it to God. That's what prayer is. And that's the greatest work that you do in this world, will be working your heart to create a relationship with God. And my friends, and however great a relationship you think you have with God now, we are in the infantile stages. And there's so much more to grow and to connect to God in a heartfelt way. And that's what prayer is. Connecting to God from our heart. So much so, by the way, that this is such an integral piece. God has told man he must go ahead and get married. Okay? And so God says, well, what do you mean go ahead and get married? Right? He says, right? He says a guy, wouldn't it make it so much simpler? Like, a guy is intellectual, a woman is all emotional, like it's torture. Like God sends them to the torture chamber. Right? Go get married, and they have to figure out something, right? They have to figure out a whole new species. Like Mars men are from Mars, women from Venus. You ever heard about that? And I actually think men are from Mars and women are from Pluto. You know why?
They're so different.
They're so different. Venus is too close to Mars. Right? We're two ends of the universe. We're in the solar system. We're just at opposite ends. And yet God said, no, go do that. It's good for you. And you say, God, are you sure? You say, yeah, I'm sure. At the Talmud says, what has God been doing since He created the world? And you know what the Talmud says?
Laughing.
No. Crying. We know what God's doing? He's making shidduchim. He's making marriages. That's what God's been doing.
I know what He did.
So the story is that there was one Roman matriarch who came to Rabbi Akiva and said to him, he says, Rabbi, she says, what has God been doing since He created the world? So Rabbi Akiva said to him, making matches. She says, what's the big deal? She gets 1,000 of her male servants, 1,000 of her female servants, lines them up and said, okay, you're married to him, you're married to him, you're married to him, you're married to him, you're married. Goes down the line and makes 1,000 marriages.
Who did this?
A Roman matriarch, or it might have been Roman Caesar, whatever. Okay? And she says, look, I'm like God. So Rabbi Akiva says, sure, no problem, I'll come back tomorrow. He comes back tomorrow, and this slave has a broken arm. This one has a black and blue eye. Right? And each one comes in, right, with another pain. So Rabbi Akiva says to her, so how's it going? She says, okay, God is God. He's much smarter than I am. Right? But God says, go do that. Why? She said, because like this. I'll explain to you why. It's an amazing idea. You see, if we men were left to our own devices, okay, if we were left to our own devices, what would we do? He says, we would get praying down to a science. We would know exactly where to take 3 steps back. We would know exactly where to bow and how to bow. We'd take 3 steps forward. We would get the exact pronunciation of the words. We do everything just so perfect. Because we guys are logic. That's how we operate.
Yeah.
Right? We want to be the best baseball or best football player. We learn how to throw the ball. We learn how to kick it. We learn how to do everything exactly perfect the way we're supposed to do it. And then we go and get married. And our life gets turned upside down.
And we have a reason to.
Why? Why? Because all of a sudden we meet this creature who is not logical, but it's all about emotion. And the guy says, but dear, I bought the flowers exactly when you told me to. right? I took out the trash on the time, right? And right, I was like operating like perfect. I got everything down exactly what it needed to be.
And you changed it.
And what does she say?
Well, you didn't mean it.
You didn't mean it, right? Of course, you didn't mean it.
You're wrong.
right. Why? Because she says it's not about taking out the trash, and it's not about doing this. What does she want? She wants your heart. Right?
She wants to rip it out.
Right, and keep it. Right? She wants that relationship.
She wants that 4 A's.
Right. She wants that relationship. And God says, you know what? So all of a sudden, the guy has there's a whole new world about relationships that he has to learn. And what is man supposed to do with that whole thing of relationships that he just learned about? Work it to help his relationship with God. Because God says, I don't want just your praying and your bowing and you're taking this step this one step that way. He says, I want your heart. I want you to connect to me in a heartfelt way. Right? That's what I want. And a woman, what does she learn? She learns, well, right? It's all about emotion. All of a sudden she meets somebody, another creature, who it's all about logic, right? It's all about doing this and doing that and making this way and doing that way, right? And all of a sudden, and what does she do? All of a sudden she realizes that it's not just emotion, but there's action to that emotion. So when she prays, right, she recognizes that there's a certain way to pray, a certain how you do things, not just emotion. Right? And that really becomes, right, they give to each other this gift, which is what we talk about here when God puts man in the garden. Now, what's the garden? To work the garden, what does that mean? It means to work his heart and to create a relationship with God. Right? That's what it means to watch it. That's what it means to work it. And to guard it means not to eat from the tree of knowledge. Right? Not to eat. Now, but it's fascinating. But it's truly fascinating. Man was put in the Garden of Eden. And all he had to do was pray. That was his job in the Garden of Eden. That was all his job.
You guard too.
What?
Guard too.
Guard, right? It means guard it from who? Who is going to eat from the tree of knowledge? Himself. Right? There's nobody else, right? The animals, right? The animals can eat from it. The animals have been the problem of eating from it.
Maybe it's like the garden as a whole.
Guarded from who?
The land. The snake.
And then the snake was allowed in this. Snake, that's what the snake was supposed to be.
Evil inclination.
Gotta guard it from your own inclination.
From his own self. Right? Don't get out of control. Don't lose it. Right? That was his job in the garden. So man's entire job in this world was to pray and just don't mess up. Right? Very simple rules. Right? Very simple. That was his whole job in the garden.
Did he have the evil inclination?
Absolutely. That's what the snake was doing there. Right? The snake was the evil inclination.
So the snake was working here.
Right. Exactly. And who put the snake in the garden?
God.
God. Why?
That's man.
Why? And what was man supposed to do? Ignore it. Not listen to it.
Yeah.
And he didn't. He messed up.
So he's supposed to work the snake, but the snake worked on him.
Right. That's exactly what it was.
Won.
The snake won. Yeah, and we'll get there. Yeah, it's fascinating. The snake's still around. Okay, but listen to this. Listen to this. So when somebody says to you today, why are you in this world?
To work it.
What is your answer? To pray.
To have a relationship with God.
Have a relationship with God.
And bring goodness into the world.
And that's part of a relationship with God. But our purpose in this world is to work it. Which work? Prayer. And everything then that happens in this world, listen up. Let's go back to the other point. So everything that happens in this world, if our job in this world is to pray and create a relationship with God, so then why does everything happen in this world?
To get you to do that.
There we go. To get us to pray.
Yeah.
It's so funny. So last night, my son and I were watching the Viking. Who did they play? Saints. Viking Saints football game. And And we're watching this, right? And it's the same score, like with 23 seconds left. You're up by 2. So I said, okay, Chaim said, let's go. He said, no, we got to watch this. Right? And then you see a picture of a kid praying in the stands. Right? Praying. I said, Chaim said, you're not going to win. Let's just go. No, stick around.
You never heard of the Heidi game?
Right, on 30-yard line, 9 seconds left. I said, Chaim Zev, it's all over. It's done. I said, no, we got to go. I said, okay. I went to put my shoes on. They snapped the ball. Right? And so I had to actually come back into the room. So they started screaming, come back! Quick! We go and we pray. The whole world is set up to cause us to pray. Everything that comes across in our lives, that happens in our lives, is created as a way to help us create a relationship with God. And it's up to us to use it or not. But it's up to us.
There were as many people praying for the saints as
Exactly.
for the
Yeah.
Vikings.
I want to tell you something. First of all, the Satan fans were all celebrating. Just you should know that. But obviously, the Viking fans prayed harder than the Saints fans.
No,
No.
according to God, the majority doesn't rule.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. Okay, you're right. I give you that.
And
Right?
not only that, the people who bet against the Saints wanted them to go for the extra point
Right.
to beat the spread.
Right. The spread was 3.5 and 5.5.
Yeah.
It was up to 5.5, and there was a 5-point difference.
Yes.
And by rule, the game was over.
But it had to go for the.
But they had to kick the extra point. The rule is
Right.
you have to kick the extra point.
Right.
Right. So it's just kind of funny. And
They took a knee.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Right. Because
They
otherwise,
didn't try.
They didn't try. So then they ruined the spread. Right. Anyway, so, but the whole thing is so amazing. Don't you understand how God goes in and how He creates the world? We're here in this world. We're put in the Garden of Eden. We have everything at our disposal. By the way, if you think you're supposed to have something else, you're wrong. You just have to figure out why. Or maybe you're supposed to pray and ask God for that other tool. Right? But everything's at our disposal to help us create that relationship with God. That's why we're here. And that's the purpose of the world. Yeah.
Does it matter where you are when you pray? Like you
Yes.
have to be insured?
Okay, the answer is like this. You're allowed to pray in almost every place. In a bathroom you cannot. Okay? Bathroom is a place you cannot pray. A place that is not clean.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're in the field and there's fertilizer all around, it becomes an issue of praying. I want to tell you something fascinating. What?
Baby with the dirty
A baby with a dirty diaper, right? That smells. You can't.
There are exceptions, aren't there? Like in serious emergencies or something, if somebody's at prison cell someplace and they're.
So I want to tell you a great story.
No.
I want to tell you a great story. We had 2 Hasidic masters. I forgot the names who they were. And what happened was, I think Reb Zusha, I think there's a famous Chassid, Reb Zusha, and his brother. And what they used to do in the olden days, maybe some people in today, they used to go into exile. They used to go and they used to wander around to cause themselves discomfort in order to help them create a better relationship with God. See, that's how a Jew lives. You know, we think we're supposed to make ourselves comfortable so we won't be in discomfort. And they say, no, we'll go make ourselves uncomfortable so we'll pray better. And what happened was, they went and they wandered from town to town, relying on kind people to give them food. Really relying on God to give them food. And then some kind person would take them in. And what happened was, they went ahead, and somehow they got mixed up, they got thrown into jail. They get thrown into the holding cell with a bunch of drunks. 2 Hasidic masters, 2 great Hasidic masters. They go to sleep. And the cell was, it was a small room, benches along the wall. And if you needed to relieve yourself, there was a pot right in middle of the room. You had to go to the bathroom. You went in that pot. Mind you, it didn't smell too great in there. Next morning, they wake up, and Reb Zusha sees that his brother is crying. He says, "Why are you crying?"
Can't say the Shema.
He says, "I can't pray." He says, "The first time in my life, I haven't prayed, and thank God."
I can't say because it's too stinky.
You're right, because it's too stinky. Okay, and he's crying. So Reb Zusha says, "Wait a second, I don't understand. The same God that told you to pray every morning told you when there's a bad smell, you can't pray as well. So just like when you're out of here, you serve God every day by praying to Him. Today we're going to serve God by not praying." So the other brother was so moved by that idea. He said, "That's so amazing." And he says, "Let's dance." And they start dancing.
That sounds like a chassid.
Okay? And what happens? You have a room full of drunks with two dancing rabbis. They don't know why they're dancing, but they start dancing too. And you have this big ruckus in the cell, right, of all these people getting up and dancing. The guard comes and says, "What's going on here?" Right? So he says, "The truth is, I don't know why we're dancing, but those two crazy rabbis, they started dancing, so we're dancing too." So the guard says, "Hey, Rabbi, why are you dancing?" He says, "But it has to do with that pot in the middle of the room." So the jail says, the warden says, "Could somebody come and get that pot out of there? Stop these crazy people from dancing." So they took the pot out.
Now they can pray.
Now they could pray. Okay?
Great story.
Right? It's a great story. It's a great story, right? But what's the message, right? What's the idea? Right? The idea is that wherever we are, we're here to serve God. And everything that happens in this world, we're put in the garden, right? We're put in the garden to work it, which means prayer. That's our job in the garden, right? To pray, right? That's what we need to do. And that's what this world is created. It's created as a place to pray, right? That's what this world is all about. Yes?
So, when I pray in the morning, I feel real strong that I'm praying and everything. But there's times, when I go to bed after I've said the Shema and everything, I get into bed and I remember something and I say, "Please, God, please, please, please." Is that prayer as good as the one that I said in the morning?
Okay, so
I'm saying it in English.
No, okay,
I'm not saying it in Hebrew.
So listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully. Very, very important. We have a Torah obligation. One of the 281 mitzvahs we talked about.
250.
Well, 250, 281 total. We have one of those 281 mitzvahs are when a person is in pain, discomfort. They are commanded, they have a mitzvah, they have a Torah commandment to pray.
Even if it's in English?
No.
What if it's in the jail cell?
Not even if it's in English. You have to pray in English.
I understand.
Because you're talking to the Creator of the universe. You better pray in the language you understand.
Well, I doubt it in the Hebrew, but I know what the Hebrew words. I know what it says.
No.
I've read the English over and over.
Good, excellent. So then it's fine. But you have to go ahead, and when you pray, right? When you go ahead and you pray, you should understand what you're saying. You're talking to the Creator of the universe.
So when you pray in English,
yeah,
it's okay.
And not okay. It's
to.
very good, right? Now you're supposed to, right now we pray, right, for males 3 times a day. For females, they should preferably pray twice a day. They should try to pray twice a day, right?
They only have to read Tehillah.
No, they should pray twice a day.
So they say Shmoni Esrei twice a day?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Shachris and Myra or Shachris and...
twice. They get the choice. They get the pick.
Okay.
God's happy to hear from them whenever they want.
So, Rabbi.
Yeah.
So, someone is a secular Jew,
Mhm.
and they have never learned a prayer,
Mm-hmm.
but they go in the closet at night and they speak to God
Mm-hmm.
in their own language.
Right.
That's
Beautiful.
much credit.
That's amazing.
Sure.
Now,
And every morning that same person
correct.
has a
Accept,
conversation with God.
right. That's all excellent. But when the secular Jew gets a little more educated and realizes that he's talking to the creator of the universe, right, and understands that there's probably a certain protocol on how to pray. So he should learn that protocol. Right? Because you should know. Has anyone here ever went to visit the Queen of England?
No.
Oh, okay. What did they do before you met the Queen of England? Did they teach you how you're supposed to act and like how you talk to her and whatever?
And not touch her.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Right?
And not speak to her unless she speaks
Unless
to you.
not speak to you, right? Unless she speaks to you, right? Right? So my friends, it's a protocol on how to talk to God. The Queen of England can have a protocol. By the way, all kings and queens do. Actually not different. Right? So too we have to learn how to speak to God as well. Right? So we want to make sure that we're talking to God in the most powerful way. Right? So that's this combining of the intellect and of the emotion. Right? They have to take that emotion, right, and best to channel it through the intellectual way of talking to God. Right? You following? Right? And what you should understand. Who put together the prayers that we pray every day?
God, actually.
The rabbis?
The rabbis. Which rabbis?
The great rabbis.
The great rabbis. All great rabbis. Which great rabbis?
The one that when chose to do the prince? The one that-
No. Interesting. Not the one who did the Mishnah. No. Who?
Maimonides.
Right.
No. Maimonides was only 1,000 years old. So the prayers were written by the men of the Great Assembly from 2,300 years ago. Among them, by 2,400 years, among them, prophets. So every word in the Shemona Esrei has been handpicked and delivered and polished and put into place to perform the biggest quality, right? To perform the biggest quality of prayer. Okay? That's how the prayers are put into place.
So by observing the protocol,
Right?
are we thanking God by doing that? Are we being more respectful to go through the protocol?
Yes.
Okay.
And not only doing the protocol, not only respecting God. That's how we're supposed to pray. I'll give you an example. Okay? The first blessing of the Shemona Esrei.
Yeah.
Very powerful blessing. It starts off as follows. God, you are the source of all blessings. God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. The God, the great God, the strong God, the awesome God, the most high of gods. Right? So, God Mel Chasadim Tavim, who does great kindness, and he acquires everything, and he remembers the kindnesses of the fathers, and he brings redemption to their children and their grandchildren, in order for his name with love. God, the helper, the savior, and the shield. God, you are the source of all blessings, the shield of Abraham. That's the first blessing. Isn't that a beautiful blessing?
Yes.
Okay, now I have a problem with this blessing.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you my problem.
All right.
And I'll illustrate it by telling you a little story. Okay, it's a windy night. It's almost bedtime. I'm going to tell you a little story. There was once a king who had 2 advisors. And he said to 3 advisors, And he told the three advisors, he says, I want you to go. And I want you each to prepare a letter on how great I am. So the first advisor gets up, and the first advisor says, King, you're the most masterful, wonderful, terrific, unbelievable, yada, 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 yada. 5 minutes worth of praising the king, and it finishes. Comes the second advisor. Oh, king, most wonderful, terrific, amazing, 10 minutes worth of praise. And he finishes. The third advisor gets up and says, Your Majesty, your nose is a little crooked. Guards, seize him, throw him into jail, execution tomorrow morning. Guy gets thrown into jail, and everybody's going like, this is just like crazy. And he goes, the king's thinking about it, it's a dear loyal friend, like what got into him? So the late that night, the king sneaks down to the dungeon and says, what were you thinking? Like, what do you think was going to happen to you? like you want to die?
Yeah.
So he says, King, I gave you the greatest praise.
So everybody knows how great you are.
He says, what do you mean? He says, well, the guy that praised you for 5 minutes, he didn't praise you like the guy that praised you for 10 minutes. So he only said you were that great. And the guy that praised you for 10 minutes, the next guy who's going to praise you for 15 minutes, he's only did 10 minutes worth. What I said, that your nose is a little bit off, I said everything else about you is perfect. I said the greatest praise. He must have been Jewish. Right?
Great
So
story.
the Talmud says, how could we open up the first blessing of the Shemona Esrei by saying, God, you are Hagadol, you are the great, you are the strong, you're the awesome, right? The El Elyon, right? The amazing God, right? You do kindness. He says, sure, we name like 10 or 15 praises, and then we stop. We're insulting God.
Because we're limiting his.
Because we're limiting his greatness. He's only 10 words of greatness, not 15, not 20, not 5 minutes, not 20 minutes. So the sages were torn at how they should begin Shemona Esrei. How do you praise God? What words do you use? So the sages says, well, let's see what words Moses used. And so then we'll just quote Moses. Right? Okay, we'll just quote Moses and we'll be okay. And that's exactly what he did. Right? So the words that we choose, right? El, Hagadol, Hagibar, V'hanora, El Elyon, Garmel Chasad, and Tavim. Those are the words that Moses used. And that's how we can use those words. And so we use specifically those words and not other words. Right? And that's what we're doing right by praising God.
So getting back to my question.
Yeah.
Does it matter where you pray?
I tried to distract you, sorry. Okay.
I'm not talking about bathrooms and
Okay.
Does it matter where you pray if you follow the protocol? Can
Yeah,
you pray
okay.
at home?
Okay, okay. So the answer is like this. You ever go to Six Flags? Once, okay. And you must have went through the single aisle payer. Right? You went in, you showed them your ticket, you walked through, and then your wife will write.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you see that group that was walking in through the big group gate? They just waved everybody in.
Yeah.
Okay. When you pray by yourself, you have to go through those single turnstile.
Yeah.
Okay, you get a chance, you write one at a time, God inspects you, checks out your prayers, looks you up and down, and then he lets you in. When you pray with a minion, you get a group pass.
Yeah.
Right? God's not inspecting. Oh, sure, come on in. Right, open up, waves everybody through. So you have a chance to pray by yourself, a chance to pray with a minion. You want to pray with a minion because you get a group. You get a group pass.
How about sincerity?
Oh.
Even if you pray alone and not with a minion, but you pray from the heart,
Right.
is it better than do with a minion? You just go
So
through
that's
emotions?
that's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is to pray with a minion with your emotions.
I mean, but choosing
But
between
it's
And
very
that's a-
hard,
that's-
Rabbi,
that's a
it's
good
very,
question.
very tough.
It is.
When I'm with a minion, they go fast.
Okay, so
And I
okay,
can't feel anything.
right. Okay, so let me tell you a little secret. Let me tell you a little secret.
Okay.
If you pray with a minion, the important part of praying with a minion is to start Shmona Esrei together. Everything else is irrelevant.
before or after.
Before or after. So, let's say you pray at home, you pray for an hour. Shul takes roughly 42 minutes. 42 minutes is a nice paced prayer service in the morning.
And I'm an hour and a half guy.
And now you're an hour and a half guy. So, but you know it takes you 45 minutes to get to Shmona Esrei, and then take Shmona Esrei, it takes 40 minutes. Okay? So, you know in Shul, they start and they take 19 minutes till they get to Shmona Esrei. So what you should do is start 19 minutes, you have 45 minus 19, right, is 26 minutes. Start 26 minutes before they even start.
So I should go earlier.
Go earlier, right? Start praying, right? And so then when the time you hit Shmona Esrei, bang, you're at the same place.
I see.
And then you go ahead and then you daven. And then forget about them. Then they're irrelevant.
I'll try that.
Okay, right? That's the job of making it happen.
So it's important to start Shemon Esrei.
Start Shemon Esrei,
And
right?
finish Shemon Esrei.
No, start Shmona Esrei.
Start it together.
Once you start together, that's called praying with a minion.
And everything else is irrelevant.
Correct.
And I can go as fast or as slow as I want.
Right.
But what about if you
All right.
don't come in 26 minutes early? You come in and start at the same time,
Mhm.
and they get to Shmona Esrei, and you 2/3 of the way there. Should you stop and do Shmona Esrei together?
Okay, so that's more complicated. So the answer is you could skip certain parts. There's stuff to do. It's set out exactly what to do if you do that. Or you come late, God forbid, right? And you can show up late, right? What parts you can skip, what parts you can do later, right? There's a certain way that you go ahead and you pray what you add and what you don't.
So when you come late and they already started Shemon Esrei, you have to continue. You cannot start Shemon Esrei if they are ahead of you.
No, they can't. It depends. Talking about morning or afternoon.
Let's say Mincha.
Mincha, right? So Mincha, if you walk in, they already start Shmona Esrei. Start Shmona Esrei right away, because even if you don't start with them, but you pray with them while they're still praying, that's also called praying with a
So you
minion.
can start from the beginning even if you're.
In the Ashrei that normally said at the beginning, you say that later. Say that when you're done.
So,
That's the thing. There's all these laws. The law will take us a couple hours to go through all the different
so
scenarios.
we're talking about now basically the difference between praying alone and praying.
Praying alone, praying with a minion, right? You want to pray with a minion.
It's a
if
little
you can.
embarrassing if they finish with Shmoni Esrei and you're still in the middle of it.
Why are you embarrassed? You don't
You're
even know.
still standing up and they're all sitting down.
And nobody's paying any attention to you. They're half asleep. It's in the morning anyway. And if they're running so fast, they're just running to get out. You can do whatever you want. Nobody's paying. Let me tell you, it's interesting. Prayer in a Jewish, right, in a shul, right, is very personal.
Yes.
Right, we're all praying in the same thing. We're sort of in the same thing, but I'm praying to God. You're also praying to God. You happen to be there. And you're praying to God too, and you're praying there, and everyone's there doing their shtick. Right, and we kind of just sort of just hanging out together, praying. Right, but it's very personal. As I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing. Right, don't worry about what other people do. Right, don't forget about them. It's irrelevant. Right, just do your thing. Do what you have to do. That's your job. Yeah.
Mine is a very complex question.
Okay.
First of all, do you need to have a book to pray on?
Again, no. I know the prayers by heart.
But the monk also prays too. Who prays the best? I or the monk?
A monkey or a monk? Oh, okay. The answer is you're praying to God. It's irrelevant who prays better. You have what you're supposed to do. Non-Jews have their own thing that they're supposed to pray.
The second question. You know that I don't speak Hebrew.
Right.
But when I pray in Hebrew.
Right.
Because this is what the ancestors always spoken in Hebrew. And I just follow the ancestors.
Right.
Even though I don't know what I pray, but I pray.
Right.
But when it comes to complex question, I pray in English.
Good.
So what am I doing?
No. The answer is fine. Both are fine. Both are fine. There's a discussion whether it's better to pray in Hebrew even though you don't understand it, or is it better to pray in English, right, because you understand it. The downside to praying in a language other than Hebrew is that when the sages and prophets put together the words in the Hebrew, they picked every single word.
But I'm following somebody else. If you're praying something, I'm following yours.
What do you mean you're following?
You're the
Reading together.
You're the cantor.
I'm the
following
chazan,
you,
right?
and you're the chazan. I'm following you.
But the answer is, again, don't worry about following me. You pray. I might be the chazan and I'm saying it out loud just so you know sort of where the marker is. But don't worry about it. You just do your thing.
Even if I make mistakes, even if I don't even if I don't understand the words,
Correct.
I say something that I think is right but it's wrong.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
But the art scroll says,
Just pray from your heart.
in the art scroll Siddur, it says it's better to pray in Hebrew even if you don't understand it, than to pray in a language that you do understand, because that's Hashem's language.
Right. So there's a whole discussion about that. There's a whole discussion about that. You know, but let me ask. But normally when you pray, that's taking apples to apples. But let's say you pray in English, and so you'll become you become more elevated that way. Okay, which one is it better to do?
English elevated.
Again, and that's why it's a much more complex question,
Right.
and therefore that's what I'm telling you. There are different opinions, but you ask me, I would say to pray in English. Man, that's what I think makes more sense. Remember, it's just not linear.
Especially if you're going to pray like his example was in the closet. You're not going to mutter words in Hebrew that you don't know. You're going to pray in the language.
Right, sure.
That
Right.
will make more sense.
Yeah, sure. That's why God built closets. Yeah.
From a child in his mother's
Womb.
womb until his death, in which part he's actually praying?
All.
In which section of his lifetime he's actually praying?
All. A baby inside its mother's womb is learning Torah.
Yeah.
Right? Is learning all this.
Luckily,
it stays
it helped
with
us
the
at
baby.
least learn the Hebrew and then keep the Hebrew. So
Who?
we could forget the rest of the Torah and just keep being able to speak Hebrew.
The answer, don't worry about Hebrew. Because you can pray to God in English.
No, I know. I'm just saying in general, it would make things easier. Retain that.
Life easy is not a good thing.
It's a
You know-
concept I was reading this last Shabbos about the right hand, strength in the right hand,
Mm-hmm.
and the difference between the left and the right hand.
Well, right is considered kindness, left is considered judgment.
Ah.
It might be. Okay.
We were reading it.
Sure, left-handed people being judged.
No, it was the context of the parsha, but I can't remember.
Okay, yeah. Alrighty.
So you said you came out of the womb and you were right there in the middle of great Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a saying that the fault of the son is the failure of the father.
Okay.
Yes?
The
Or
fault.
no?
The fault of the son is
Yeah, the son doesn't pray. The son's not religious. He's
Right.
a secular Jew.
Mm-hmm.
The father's a secular Jew.
Mhm.
Is it the father's fault?
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you something very simple. What would you answer me if I came to you and said, "Listen, I don't have to be religious because my father wasn't religious"? What would you tell me?
That doesn't sound right at all.
Here we go. Excellent. I would say, what do I have to do with the other? Right? If the right thing to do is to be religious, so be religious. Who cares what your father was or wasn't?
Because God gave this child free will anyway.
Absolutely. Now, again, we as parents, we sit there and we pull our hairs out for whenever our kids mess up because we kind of take the blame and say it's our fault that they're like this and it's fault like they did like that.
Yeah.
The answer is forget about fault because that's ridiculous. Okay, that's just meant to make you depressed and make you not serve God. Okay, our job is not a question of fault or not fault because what was done was done. There's nothing to do. Right? You can't go back and fix it. The question you have to ask yourself is, what can I do now? Right? What can I influence now? And generally we find out, and as our children get older, like 4 or 5 years old, or maybe probably more like 8 or 9, right? That our influence begins to wane, right? Over our children. From like 5 to 10, we're God. Right? Chaim says like right there on the cusp. Like 11, 12, they begin like the parent might make a mistake. By 15, the parents are idiots, right? Right? By 25, maybe 25, they think, well, maybe my dad's not that stupid. Right? And the third, right? The right 30, 35, in 35, he says, why? How did my father get so smart in the last just a few years? Right? And so the answer is that we all have we have to take responsibilities for ourselves and our own actions. And sure, we go through life and we could influence people, less influence people. Then becomes, well, then how do we, when we get older, we begin to realize that it's not us influencing our children. Maybe it's influencing the influencers of our children, right? Or setting them up for success. Or kind of doing things that way, right? Kind of creating a system where we go ahead and we could encourage them, right? On how to get them to do what we think is the right thing. And that becomes more our job. You know what I'm saying? Like that's our job. Maybe sit down and have a heart to heart talk and say, son, I messed up. I'm going to tell you why and tell you, where what I messed up on. And I hope you take it to heart and do something about it. But I'm saying that like everything has got its own complex puzzle, right? And then that's what we're taking a puzzle and we're trying to work it out, But we connect being depressed about something that took place before, right? Depression is a very anti-Jewish thing. Right, it's one of the biggest tools of the evil inclination. Right, and is that the answer? I might have messed up. Okay, so we do tshuva. Right, we have the tshuva process meant to wipe away the sin. Right, regret the action, stop doing it. Right, make sure we're going to do better, and then doing better. Right, and making a verbal confession to God. Like that's our job. Okay, bing, let's do that. Let's go. Let's knock it off. Right,
so it clears our conscience if somebody does tshuva.
Not really lose our conscience. It's no longer there.
The guilt.
Right. It's gone. Right. It's gone. It's off. Right. It's no longer there. Right. And so therefore, we might feel like we're carrying it. Right. And that's a mistake. That's something that we can't have that happen because that will crush us. Right. That will crush us. Right. Then it'll be too heavy of a weight to carry. But we don't have to carry it because it's not us. Like we're not. We have to kind of just realize, right? It's not our sin, right? And we're being tagged with it, but we're being tagged with it in order that we should not strengthen our relationship with God, and that's a mistake. Right?
Say the last part again, please.
If we're being tagged with it, right, and we accept the monkey on our back. Right, we are. It is at this point in time that is the wrong monkey to take on. It's right. Our relationship with God is much greater than that, and our relationship with God is nothing to do with that. Right, and if we let it affect our relationship now, right, from something that is beyond our control, right, then that's not good, and that's what we need to take responsibility for and fix it. And you know what I'm saying? And that's what we need to fix. Right? That's what we need to do.
So they can go on with their lives to do the sincere tshuva and
that's
repent and
right and move on.
And then clean their conscience with that.
Right. Absolutely.
Their guilt.
Right. Sure.
Otherwise, if they're going to continue to carry this monkey, as you put it,
yeah.
guilt,
sure.
It just wouldn't do any good.
And not only not good, it kills you. Right? Because you walk around with it saying, oh my gosh, look what I did. Every time we see them, we say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I messed up. And the answer was, I'll tell you, it's a little secret. Listen carefully. God gave everybody the specific child that they needed to raise. And the child's job is to be raised with that parent and then to be able to become the best that they can become.
Who? The parents of the child?
Yes. Yes.
Well said.
Both. Everybody gets exactly what they need, with who they need, when they need it, blah, 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 blah.
If I have
Always.
If I have a father that beats me up every day,
Yes.
that's fine.
The answer.
Where is the connection on that?
The answer is you have a job to learn. There's a message. It wasn't by accident. God didn't just happen to give you that father. It wasn't a mistake.
The one that molests his child every single day.
Remember rule number 1. God does not make mistakes. And what's rule number 2?
Whatever is done is for good.
God,
Rule one.
we go back. If you think he made a mistake, go back to rule number 1.
And whatever is happening is for
Maybe we'll make you the most champion. You'll make it your champion and make sure it won't happen again to anyone else. Right? You can take it and use it as a tool for growth, or you can use it as a tool for destruction.
How about the ones that don't have children?
Yeah,
They
you
never
know-
have children.
Yeah, correct. That's part of the drill. That's all part of the drill. There are no mistakes. Do you know what the odds of somebody getting pregnant? By the way, just out of curiosity.
Ask that again.
What's the odds of somebody getting pregnant?
Now we're 2,000 years ago.
Teenager or married successfully?
No, 50%.
No, absolutely
No.
not. No.
Yeah, half of men.
30%.
No.
Isn't it like 30%?
No. The odds are like astronomically
Low.
low of
Yeah.
what it should be.
It's only like 2 days a month.
The odds I know, but even the sperm, it's like it's a crazy number. And then people get pregnant, and then people that don't, and it's terrible. It's terrible. And it's terrible. I have
So,
nothing to say.
excuse me, Bentzi.
Yeah.
So, what's up? It is terrible. So, is God punishing them?
Not punishing. That's maybe their challenge. That maybe be their growth. And I'll tell you something fascinating. You want something like super crazy? Yeah? You listening? Okay. Super crazy. Why do you want a child?
Why do you want to have a child?
Why do we want a child?
continuation of a
A
tree.
legacy?
A legacy. Good. Okay, so that's ego. Let's get rid of that.
Okay.
Okay, not a good reason. Why do you want a child?
To perpetuate Judaism.
What?
You're insane.
Mini
To perpetuate Judaism.
To perpetuate Judaism. Okay, good, excellent. And why is it important to perpetuate Judaism?
Make sure that
My
continuation
job
of
is to...
So-
Because our job is to bring godliness down into this world. Now let's say God says, you think that's your job. I got other people doing that job just fine. Your job is something else. Right? Let's say God says it. So what's your job?
I don't know. To find
The answer is something else. Right? But is that other job any worse than this other job? And again, I just want to show you something even more than that. You're going to create a child. And how long is this child here down in this world for? How long is this child here for? Best case scenario. 120 years. Best case scenario. A blip in time. Okay, so now I'm going to take you through a little journey. Listen up. You create a child. And actually creating a child is wrong. Because who creates a child?
God.
God. He gives the soul. Right? Mother and fathers are just donors. Okay? Right? You create a child, you create a soul. And that soul is eternity. And when you create a child, you're creating an eternal connection to God. Or hopefully an eternal way of somebody bringing glory to God.
So that's the main reason why people should have a child.
Right. Now, you get it?
Yes.
But now let me tell you this, step number 2. Every time a husband and wife are together, whether they produce
So
a physical child or not, they do produce a soul. And so, therefore, you think you have X amount of children, right? Because that's how many physical children you have. That's a very big mistake.
You have a dozen spiritual ones.
You have, right, hundreds, right, thousands of spiritual children. Now, when you get to heaven, you will meet all those spiritual children that you have created.
Rabbi, Kabbalists say that when a child is born into a family, it's like a hand is fitting into a glove.
Mm-hmm.
The child benefits from the family,
Right.
and the family benefits from the child.
Yes.
We each learn from that experience.
Yes.
So, you don't disagree with any of that.
Oh no, not that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And every child is put into every place, and every, right? It's like a hand into a glove. It's every situation is created exactly what it's created for.
Yeah.
Did you continue to create souls past a certain age of being able to your physical ability?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
If I may ask, without insult, what makes you think that? I don't know. I don't know a polite way to ask.
Okay, how do I know that?
Yeah.
It sounds great, doesn't it? The answer is it's in the Torah. It's in the Torah.
That's chapter 18.
Actually, chapter. Again, yeah, never 15.
Chapter 15?
Yeah. Maybe chapter 12.
Let me look.
And Abraham and Sarah took all the souls that they made in Haran.
No, the thesis is at rest.
Right?
No.
Okay. Right? I mean, listen, I'm telling you, Torah.
I didn't mean it rudely.
No! Never, ever. I want to tell you something. Every question is an amazing, opens up a new vista of knowledge. The only question that is not, by the way, is somebody who asks to destroy. If you ask to destroy, the Talmud actually says something like that is better they weren't even created. You can imagine.
As to destroy like a smart aleck question.
Like a smart aleck, but it was a way.
Where's your info on
Right? No. But it's a way to destroy. Meaning to ask where it's from. It's a
Cut 'em down.
perfectly legitimate question, right? Meaning it's okay.
Yeah,
Rabbi,
yeah,
can you show me?
yeah.
Right? Can you show me a source for it?
I didn't mean to challenge your knowledge.
No. I want to tell you something. It's not me and you. It's not me against you.
Yeah,
It's me and you looking for the truth.
right.
I have absolutely have. There is no bone in my body that has anything but that from me.
Okay.
So I absolutely don't feel in any way on any level. No, absolutely, feel free to ask. Yes.
Is the child created the moment the husband and wife connect, or after the deed is done?
So it's a great question, right? At which point in time? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's because it's very fascinating because the Torah has a very distinct definition of what is considered a relationship.
An intimate relationship?
An intimate relationship, yeah. It's actually very, very fascinating. Right? And by the way, Bill Clinton's lawyer was a Jew. I'm sure it was a religious Jew who learned Talmud. Because he just said, right, there's no penetration, it's not sexual immorality. Because that's the Talmud's definition. Right? And it's fascinating, I mean, right? Like that's where it comes from. Right? But it comes from the Talmud, right? Because at what point in time, if somebody had an illicit relationship, do they get killed? Right? But that's the Talmud's question. Right? At which point in time is it considered sexually immoral that you get killed?
No penetration, it's not.
And it's very interesting, you don't get killed.
Oh, you don't get killed, but
Right.
still immoral.
Oh, very much. Yeah. But that's right, but you don't get killed. Right? So it's fascinating. The Talmud discusses everything, I'm telling you. And it's amazing because everything has to be defined, right? There has to be right and wrong and right. What are the parameters, etc., etc. It's all in the Talmud. It's all there, You know what I'm saying? Right? And that's just getting just right. Study that's where it comes from. Yes.
A person is perfect. God takes him.
Yes.
What is the definition of perfect?
Oh, well, so that is Genesis chapter 5. Right? Chanoch was perfect, but he was no longer because God had taken him.
What was Hanoch? What happened?
Ve'einenu ki lakach Yisai Elokim. Right? He's no longer here because God had taken him. Chanoch. There's a few different Chanoch, so make sure. I know the English, what the English translates it. Right? He was no longer because God had taken him. Why did Hashem take him? Right? So Hashem had taken him.
Perfect.
Right, here we go. Chapter 5, verse number. It's really verse 24. I'll just read you from verse 21. Enoch, they call him Enoch. Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. Enoch walked with God for 300 years after begetting Methuselah and begot sons and daughters. All the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, then he was no more, for God had taken him. The Talmud says, wait a second, he walked with God. Why did God take him?
Why?
And the answer is because at that point in time, the world was so corrupt, Enoch would have become corrupt. And better he die innocent than he die guilty. Right? Then he had reached the perfection in his life. What is perfection? Perfection is each soul reaching the perfection that soul can achieve. Right? In this life, right? And depending on what that soul can do is what perfection is. I'll give you an example. When I say perfection is studying the entire Talmud. Say a guy who's born with an IQ of 65 and can't study Talmud. Or Mishnah. Can barely understand a verse in the Torah, maybe. For him, perfection might be studying that one verse in the Torah. The guy who was born with an IQ of a 200. Is there such a thing, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, yes, you have it. Okay. Right to the 200, right?
That was the first case.
Right, so what? So for him, studying a verse in the Torah, doesn't cut the mustard. Right, studying the entire Talmud with the Zohar, right, with all the different facets of the Torah. Yes, sir, sir, right on in. And he goes ahead, that is. Right? Means our job in this world, right, is to go in, is to reach our perfection. To be the best that we can be. That's what perfection looks like. And for every single one of us, it is so uniquely ours. And so uniquely different than anybody else. Because the only race we are running against is a race against me. Am I using everything that I have in the best way to serve God? Or am I not? Right? And if I'm not, well, how do I make it better that I am? Right? And that's our challenge. And that's where we need to become the great. That's where we become great. And that's truly how we achieve greatness. Being the best that we can be.
And God knows that you could be better. But He's leaving you, He's giving you a break, and He's letting you do your work, and He hopes you come around.
Right. See, God is way kinder than we are. We would have fired the guy a long time ago. And God says, give him another chance. Give him another chance. Give him another chance. Right? And that's what God is. It's the most incredible thing. The most incredible gift we have. And so when we get something that we don't like, right? So we have to recognize that this is also from God. Right? If He gives us what we want, we thank Him. When He gives us something we don't want,
Thank you.
we have to thank Him. Right? And then ask Him how we're supposed to use what we got. Right? And that's the way how we score our 100 on the test. Right? You know what I'm saying? Right? That becomes what we need to do. Yes?
Is Torah a prayer book? And if there is Mishnah, Zohar, other books, are they also a prayer book or not?
Okay, so usually when we say prayer book, we refer to the Siddur. Okay, the Siddur, right? Depending you Ashkenaz, Sephardi, right? Nusach Sephardi, or how Sephardi you are. Right? Okay, there's a prayer book. the Torah, right, is what generally referred to. Now, the word Torah, there's a colloquial use of it, and then there's a specific definition. The Torah could be used to mean the 5 books of Moses. The Torah could be referred to the Tanakh, right, the 24 books of the Torah, right, made of the Torah, the prophets, the sacred writings. It could also mean including, right, the Mishnah and the Talmud. It could also mean the Torah, the Mishnah, the Talmud, the Zohar, right? All the mystical works could all fall underneath that umbrage or umbrella of Torah, right? And depending on how the word is used, is what it means. Right? That's where the word Torah comes from, right? How the word Torah could be used. And so it's in many different aspects.
Are we praying right now?
No, we are studying Torah right now. Maybe some of you are praying that I stop talking, but yeah. Right, but we should hopefully we're learning Torah. Now you should know, and like even Musar, right? Musar is ethics, ethical development. That's part of Torah, right? It really comes right learning from Torah and seeing how they act, how the great people act, right? The thing is also Pirkei Avos, it's part of the Mishnah, right? The story of Hillel sitting on the roof, his dedication to learning Torah.
So what's the difference between my prayer and your prayer? You're Talmid Chacham, I'm not.
Correct. Oh, thank you for the upgrade. The answer is your prayer is you, and my prayer is me. And Joy's prayer is hers, and Taylor's is hers.
Am I supposed to pray for you? Are you supposed to pray for me?
Absolutely. If you care about me, you pray for me. And if I care about you, I pray for you. There's a fascinating story. There was once a rabbi who came. He was teaching, I think, 5th grade or 6th grade boys. And he came to the principal of his school and said, this kid isn't Jewish. So the teacher of the school said, what are you talking about? This kid had 30 kids in his class. He says, let me tell you something. He says, every year I get a new group of kids that come into my class. And some of them do better than others. And I pray for my students. And when I pray for them, they do better. He said, "In this kid, I've prayed. I've read the book of Psalms backwards and forwards, and it ain't working. He can't be Jewish." And they checked into his lineage, and he wasn't Jewish.
He was not Jewish.
Correct.
Didn't have a Jewish mom.
No, he was praying for the wrong person because it's so and so, the son of so and so. It wasn't. He wasn't calling him by the right name.
It was really right. He was praying via lineage, or was he?
No, well, no, that.
If I could pray for somebody, like for instance, I resent, like sometimes, like if I really have resentment against somebody, whether it be Jewish, somebody random person at work that just really irritated me, or whatever, you know, I was always taught, throughout, I mean. You're supposed to, the only way to get rid of these, like, because sometimes I just have this grudge and I can't get over it, and I just think about it and I, like, kind of festers, and if I really pray for their well-being, like, then I feel I have to go out better. It just means if they're not Jewish, they're not going to feel better?
No. No. Right, so you're just saying so and right.
No, in a sick kind of way, no, not in a good way.
Right. No, that's a beautiful thing. Right, that's a good.
Well, it's kind of for me because I get sick of obsessing about being irritated.
Right.
I mean, it's like I hate to say it. I mean, that's why I do it for me. Really.
Okay, but it's a nice thing to do even for the other person, just a little bit. Right, but that's what you're doing,
but
right?
If they're not Jewish, I mean, would they set matter?
No, but you're praying them. You're saying Joe Blow, my right.
Yeah, just like
so this rabbi was playing each of the Hebrew name. The son of the.
But like if anyone's sick or something and they're not Jewish, like it's not just if I'm irritated, but I'm like anybody who's.
Yeah.
Just praying in a false pretense. He thought the kid was.
Right. Right. And so that's really what it is. A rabbi has to pray for his students.
If you knew the student was actually
his real name was Sam Jones or something, then it wouldn't matter.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Totally
But absolutely. Right, that's our job. Right, we have to go ahead. We have to pray. We pray about the people we care about. Right.
How do we pray for them?
How do we pray?
Yeah, I mean, in what part of the Shmoneh Esrei?
What part of Shmoneh Esrei?
Do I say your name? Because I want to pray for you.
Thank you. When you pray for wisdom, ask God that He give me wisdom. When you pray for redemption, ask God that He gives that me too. When you ask God to, for forgiveness, ask God to forgive me too. When you ask God for health, ask God for me health. When you ask God for...
So do I say your name? Rabbi Epstein, please help him.
Bentzi Asher ben Menachem Yehoshua is my name. Right? And, excuse me, Bentzi Asher ben Sarah. Right? That's my mother's name. Right? But in Shema Kollel. In Shema Kollel.
So Bentzi ben Sarah.
Bentzi Asher.
Bentzi?
Yeah. Bentzi Asher is my Hebrew name.
And why do we pray with somebody's name with the mother's name?
What is that? So very interesting. So when we want to identify somebody, we go after the father's name. So therefore, when somebody gets called up to the Torah, we say Bentzi Asher ben Menachem Yehoshua, right? Because I'm Bentzi Asher, the son of Menachem Yehoshua. When we pray for somebody to get better, we use the mother's name because a mother is considered Rachmanas. It's considered more merciful. And I'll show you something fascinating. Something like really cool. And it's worth coming out. And that's why there still hasn't rained, by the way. I hope you know that. The whole rain was there to scare us from having class tonight. Just want to let you know that. Right? What organ does a woman have that a man doesn't have?
Uterus.
Only one, the uterus. You know how to say uterus in Hebrew?
Oh.
Rechem.
Rachem?
Rechem.
Rachem.
Reish, ches, mem.
Rachem.
Rechem. You know what the words reish, ches, mem stand for? Rachem. How do you say mercy in Hebrew? Rachmanas. A uterus is called Rachmanas.
Wow.
Why? Because a woman is Rachmanas. That's her essence. Having a child is Rachmanas. Right? Is merciful. Right? But that's why when it comes Reish Ches, Rechem. Ches, yeah. Right, Rechem. Right? And that's right, and that's why, right? That's why we say in these types of things we do we go by the mother's name.
Ches
and
and head are the same.
No, Ches is like this,
yeah.
And a Chaf is like this. A Chet and a Ches, yeah.
Chet.
Yeah, a Chet is a sin. Stay away from those.
So you would say so and so being a mother's name.
Yes.
Son of the mother.
Yeah.
But what about when you making a bracha, a blessing for your daughter after you read from the Torah?
Right.
Would
So
you say Bas.
no, so I do Bas. I got called up to the Torah this week.
Right.
So I said Bas ben Sion Asher, right? The daughter of Ben Sion Asher, because again, it's identifying her, right? God willing, when she has a baby, I say, right, so and so, right, the daughter, so and so, the.
Don't just give your name.
No. But then you're asking them for healing.
Yeah.
So then you do right.
But at the Torah.
And the Torah reading, yeah, you
So
go by the
father's
father.
name is Etzion.
Menachem Yehoshua.
Menachem.
Yehoshua.
Yeah.
So,
Ben Asher, where's Asher come from?
My middle name is Asher. Ben Sion Asher.
Etzion,
Asher.
Asher.
Yeah.
Ben.
Menachem Yehoshua.
Oh, Menachem.
But again, for davening you do Ben Sarah.
Yeah.
Right, so it would be
For
Ben Sion
davening,
Asher Ben Sarah.
But for a girl.
Would be
For my daughter, for Eliezer, Yael, Ben or Bas
Bas.
Chana
Bas-
or Bas Pinchas Yosef.
No, when you get called up and you give her Misha Berach, Bas Pinchas Yosef.
Bas Pinchas Yosef.
Yeah.
when
Yes.
you passed the 120, you're supposed to go by the gate.
Yeah.
How do they call you over there?
Over there they call you by they call you by your father's name
Father.
because you're getting called up, right? It's identification purposes.
So when somebody called to,
No,
somebody gets Aliyah, then they just
We go by the father's
by
name.
the father's name. That's
Yeah.
why.
Is this called a judgment call or is it a mercy call?
Yes. Depends how well you did.
I mean, why
I'll let you know after you
why
get.
are they calling you? Why?
We're in heaven. Why are they recalling you? Because you finished your mission or your timer is up.
The game is end.
The game's over.
It's
Yeah.
just beginning.
Right, really just beginning. Yes, thank you. Right, but that's what it is. Alrighty, folks, it's that time of night. Stay warm. I think it's gotten colder outside, but I think you are safe. Please be careful because it might be not around here. There might be some other rain or not. Yeah, so yeah, there might be some rice in the road. Everyone have a wonderful evening. We'll see you all same bad time, same bad station.